and welcome. This will be the first video in a new series that'll cover the garage and its construction and the options that we went with and kind of the pieces that we use, and a little bit of an explanation as to why we used the options that we did. But I wanted to start this out with what you see here is the lift for this garage. I noticed, or shouldn't say noticed, but saw this lift on a fellow YouTuber's channel called Musty1, and he previewed this lift, showed its how it could be assembled by the individual, aka the customer. And the nice thing about this lift is that this is a 4-post lift, but it also comes with this optional piece here, which this one is the air version. And what that is when we get out of the box, we'll bring you back to show you that piece. But that is it is a jack that actually sits in between the two ramps you drive up on, that allows you to jack up the rear or the front of the vehicle. So you get the advantage of a stability of a 4-post lift, but you also still retain the ability to be able to jack up the front or rear of the vehicle in case you have to do tire work or suspension work or brake work or something along that nature. Originally, also when we had this garage built, we had a 4-foot wide section that spans the width of the garage, poured actually 8 inches thick instead of the remainder of the floor, which is 4. And we did that because the original plan was to put a 2-post lift in, and that extra thickness on the concrete would be to bolt that lift those 2 pillars in place. Because I wanted the ability to be able to get a car up off the ground and make it easier to work on, A, but B, still have the ability, if needed, to be able to pull tires, things of that nature, to do additional work without having to pull it off the lift. And all of the other 4-post lifts I looked at, that was kind of the one drawback behind it, was that obviously you drive up on them, you're sitting on all 4 wheels, and they didn't have a mechanism in place to allow you to lift up the front or the rear of the vehicle in order to accommodate that work. So one weekend, Musty1 publishes his video. He shows this lift, which is put out by WildFire. This is their XLT 9000 lift. This means it's a little bit bigger than the 9000 model. This is the XLT 9000 again, 9,000 pounds, a little bit bigger, and like I showed you before on that little piece there in the corner of the box, 4-post lift, you drive up on it, but you still have the ability to raise a section of the vehicle. Now, this is delivered as you see here, and some of the plastics I ripped off because I was pulling off shipping labels and tags and things of that nature. But as you can see, it's delivered in a pretty nice compact package. If you opt for this optional extra lift piece, arrives in its own little shipping crate, but it came in the same delivery truck as the lift itself. When you order these, you have the ability of just paying the extra delivery fee. In my case, they were able to send it to the house, and the delivery truck had a forklift on it to be able to then carry it in here in the garage. I did have a distribution center that was within an hour-and-a-half drive of the house. I could have gone down there with a flatbed and picked this unit up and brought it home, but it would have just been difficult for us to get it off the flatbed and in the garage because we don't have access to a forklift to lift this. This, as you see it, is 2,700 pounds, so keep that in mind. When the order was placed, the individuals over there at WildFire, very, very nice, very, very responsive. They actually wanted to talk to me first to get a better understanding of what we would be using this lift for, and to make sure that the lift that we were placing on order would facilitate all the needs that we needed it for, as well as meeting all of safety margins and safety margins within the equipment. Like I said, very nice gentlemen over at WildFire. This was not subsidized. It wasn't a free product. It wasn't even a discounted product. We paid normal full price on it. The only discount was that there was $100 off on this piece that you see here. I believe it was $100 off if you ordered this at the same time that you ordered the lift. And that's a standard percentage off that anybody gets. So again, just because I'm making a video and putting it out there, it's not subsidized in any way. This is it's for your information. That way you get to be able to see another one of these videos about these lifts and then make a determination if it's right for you or not. Now, this isn't the cheapest lift that's on there. There are 2-post lifts and 4-post lifts that are less expensive than this. But from what I've seen from Musty One's videos and dealing with the company thus far, this is a very nice, high quality lift. Again, gives you that stability of having a 4-post lift, but also with the option to be able to raise up the front or lower the vehicle to be able to do that work that you traditionally would have to do on a 2-post lift. Another nice thing about the 4-post lift is that it is optional. You can do it if you like, but you may not have to in all situations. I'm going to look at it first. More than likely, I will not bolt this to the floor because, again, you have that stability of having 4 columns that the weight will be sitting on versus a 2-post lift. You have to bolt those to the floor, obviously, because you got 2 columns and you're roughly lifting the car up from its center point, or its lift points, I should say. But that's enough babbling about the project, about the unit itself. Again, as you can see, this is just as it looks like shipped. And then we'll start getting the cardboard and the plastic and start tearing into this. We'll get out the installation manuals. Once we have a little bit more of this assembled, we'll bring you back and for a little bit of an update video. We'll try to cover some of the installation on this as best as we can. Musty One has a awesome video that shows the setup and the install of this lift. He actually did it by himself. It is suggested. It is not suggested, but it is easier if you have 2 individuals to help you with this because some of these pieces are rather heavy. But he was able, and if you watch his video, you'll see that he was actually able to do this by himself with just the use of some jack stands and some other tools. But we'll get further along in the process, and then we'll bring you back. So, I wanted to bring you back and show you what it looks like with its outer cardboard removed. You can see there in a pile. Just wanted to show you the nice packing job that is done on these lifts. As you can see, everything has got bubble wrap or saran wrap, or that basically saran wrap. It's that stretchy cellophane material that sticks to itself, and as well as strapped to a component. So as you can see here, and what we're going to do is we're going to get these boxes out of here first, get our hardware situated. But as you can see here, very nicely packaged. Very nice job of making sure that nothing on this lift is potentially going to get damaged or come loose in shipment, or very much greatly minimizes the chance that something's going to happen during the shipping process. But we'll get more of this out of its cocoon here, and then we'll bring you back. So we're still in the unboxing phase and getting the various bits and pieces out of their cocoon. We've got our main parts box. There's an inventory of our pieces. There's our pump there. And you see our two caster sets that'll allow you to reposition where the lift sits. As far as getting the bits and pieces out of here, like I said, and like you've seen in the video, they're well packaged. But you'll see a black steel bar going over the center of this that just kind of bands this together with a couple of bolts on top and bottom. And that steel bar can be removed because it'll allow you to then be able to swing the pillar arms out. So in the center, we found it so far to remove this, again, this crossbar that's sitting here. And coming down to this end here, and this is the end that you'll also see a sticker in which it's safe for the forklift to pick it up from this end, and it'll be marked. But you'll notice two of your pillars have bolts here and here. These will have to be removed to get these big pillars out of here. So what you're going to end up with is this frame, this end frame, where it's got this ramp, one ramp attached to the bottom, one ramp attached to the bottom. We're going to leave that as it sits until we get to that part of the installation. Again, we're just still in the process of getting everything unpackaged here. But to get this stuff out of the center, it was that bar that we talked about in the center that we took out. And then we're going to remove these two bolts here. And then these two bolts here on this end, which again is the end that you'll see a sign here where it says it's safe for the forklift to grab it. And that will allow us to swing the rest of these pillars out from the center of this. And like I said, we'll continue with the unpacking here and we'll bring you back. Okay, doing some more of the unpacking here. Just want to show you when that center band's removed and you cut away a bit more of this plastic. The next two pieces in between these two ramps, you got one ramp here on this setup and one on the bottom, and everything's kind of stacked in the center. You've got your two front and rear cross members, I guess you can call them, are packaged over here on the side, and it is a bit of a tight fit. So you can see we've got one here pulled out of the packaging all by it lonesome, and that was tucked up in here on this end. And then you've got the other one that you can see, which is partially, kind of turn the camera a little bit, you can see it's partially hanging out on that side. So we're going to work on that next. We're going to get that piece out of there. We'll get these two pieces off to the side, and then that will allow us to get the two center columns out of it. So it's very much like a puzzle. Just take your time with it. It helps to cut away a lot of this bubble wrap that's wrapping all of these pieces. Again, it was extremely well packaged to keep it from getting nicked or scratched or damaged in shipment. But as a result, again, just take your time with it. Cut away the packaging to make things a bit easier to see. But how we done it so far is that we removed that black band or metal strap that was in the center, took the bolts out of the back on there, but only the bolts that were bolted to the columns, so we could free those up. And then with all this packaging out of the way, we're able to get this cross member out, and then we'll get the other cross member out. And again, once that's done, then we'll take the columns out of the center and go from there. Per their instruction, we have the first two poles placed on the ground with the cross member in between, and we're using two of the nylon blocks to keep the interlocks held open so you can slide these down the poles to the determined length. And then what happens is you get it down to a certain point, or to the point in the directions, and then you pick this up as one big assembly and stand it up, and basically this becomes the front of the unit. So you'll notice that the WildFire is upside down per this perspective, but when you've got it picked up and facing front, then the WildFire 9,000 pound will read correctly. You'll notice on these side beams, when you stand them up, they're not centered. Those little square cutouts the interlocks lock into are not centered on the poles. You've got a smaller gap, a narrower gap on top, and then the square cutout, or rectangular cutout I should say, and then the bigger piece at the bottom. So per the instruction, the smaller spacing is going to be up. So this part will be facing forward, this part will be facing back. And then we've got, of course, our cross member piece in there, getting ready to put that in a position. And that little piece that you see holding the side pillar off the ground is actually the top cap for these units. What they want you to do is take that top cap off. It just slides off. It isn't bolted on in any way, shape, or form. And it's just used to help hold the ends up off the ground so you can start to slide that cross member in. And welcome back for another update. The last video you saw, we had the two columns assembled with the one cross member. And as you can see here, we've gotten the other two assembled with its cross member, as well as the runways, as they call them, put into place. We're going to have our pump on that pillar that you see there. So it'll be on that side of the lift. So we've got some outlets that have already been run, 20 amp dedicated outlets that the pump will plug into. And we've gotten as far as getting the two runways in and getting the attached hardware tightened up. So the runways are fully secured to the cross members at this point, but we still got quite a bit to do. Got to get the linkages squared away, run the cables, get the hydraulic motor and everything mounted. But I will say that the manual says to one of the suggested pieces here, or tools, is a 2-ton engine hoist and heavy-duty lifting strap. And hopefully that'll focus in well enough to see. And I would strongly suggest that if you do not have a 2-ton engine hoist and a heavy-duty lift strap, that you get one. Putting these side pillars together with the cross members were easy enough to do with two individuals, but getting these runways unbolted from the shipping pack they were in, which if you remember from the previous videos, you had that little frame assembly there and that one there where the runways were bolted to, and in the center of those two runways were all the supporting pieces, and everything again expertly packaged. Beautiful job with all the bubble wrap. Everything got here without even so much as a nick in it. But I will say that these runways are extremely heavy, and that is putting it lightly. So if you do not have a 2-ton engine hoist, but you see one there, that one's from Northern Tool. We literally picked that up today, and that was to do this install job here. Obviously we'll be using it for other things in the future, but that was the reason it was acquired today, as well as that engine strap, or I should say heavy-duty lifting strap. We didn't video any of that because it was pretty cumbersome to get these runways into place, and trying to dance around the camera wouldn't have made for a very safe setup. So unfortunately we didn't catch video of that. But I will say that you definitely need, and Musty One was able to do this by himself because he has access to a forklift and things. And again, I'll link his video in the description, you'll see, but I would strongly suggest that you have a second person to help you maneuver these runways around and get them unsecured from the shipping bracket that they're bolted to. And as you're following the instructions, just be very careful as you're flipping these ramps around and getting them oriented in the correct position that you need in order to proceed forward with your lift. This is how they mount. You'll see a little V channel on the side of each one of these runways, and they go in towards the center of the lift, both of them. And what this is used for is that there's various accessories like drip pans, tool trays, things of that nature that will ride inside of these grooves, and give the ability to hold on the tools, or if you're gonna raise one car in the air and store another car underneath, you have the ability of putting some drip trays on here just to make sure that there's no leaks that could get onto either vehicle underneath or to the floor underneath. And we're gonna go ahead and proceed forward with the next steps on this, which are getting the cables installed, but wanted to bring you in and let you see the process thus far. But again, I will say this many times. These runways are extremely heavy and extremely cumbersome to deal with. You definitely need, like it says here in the manual, a 2-ton engine hoist with a heavy-duty lifting strap or other means to safely move these around. Do not attempt to do this by yourself. Again, you're dealing with a lot of weight, and you're dealing with steel, and let me tell you, when it comes down to squishy bits of you versus a couple 100 to 1,000 pounds worth of steel, you're going to lose out on that every time. But we'll progress further, and we'll bring you back with an update. Thank you.